Hey everybody, it's Sergio with the RideShare Guy. Welcome to another edition of Behind the Wheel. Today I'm joined by Robert from California, and welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Sergio. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk to Robert for a while. He has a very interesting background. He's a retired lawyer, and as a lot of retirees do, he took up some gig work to supplement his income. And has been doing it for a while. So let's talk a little bit about that. Introduce yourself, Robert.
Yeah, I'm Robert Belshaw here in the Los Angeles area. I actually got into driving with Uber through a friend I was living with. His name is Zane Gray. He's a songwriter, and I didn't even want to do this, but he sort of egged me on to try to do it. And then when my first assignment came, I had no idea what to do. I pressed the button and ended up somewhere in Hollywood, where right near the Magic Castle, where some guy had just committed suicide.
Oh Lord.
So I said, is this what this job is really about? So
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. That's just right off the bat, right? None of these companies do put out videos or educational videos and how to get ready for the job. Is barriers to entry is very easy. You just download the app, upload some documents, and you're ready to go. Nobody tells you the pitfalls. Nobody tells you anything about that. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. What do you
that's
think
right.
about that? What do you think
But,
about that? Do you think
well,
they
you
should
see,
educate their drivers?
Uber was probably my best experience, but they were kept telling me to keep the Wi-Fi on while I was driving. And as a result, when I couldn't get trip assignments, they gave me inconvenience fees. But I didn't learn until last year that you ought to have the Wi-Fi off. So you're right. The It leaves drivers open, especially those that their English is not stellar, where they're not adequately prepared. And I wasn't physically or mentally prepared for it, but I got myself into it.
Yeah. But then how long you been doing this, Robert?
Believe it or not, this is my eighth year
Oh
and
my
I'm in my fourth platform right now.
Fourth platform. Okay.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure you have a lot of stories in 8 years, but the reason I'm talking to you today is because something that is near and dear to my heart, which is unjust deactivations. And I know your story, but I want you to tell us with your own words about your experiences with these gig apps and the way they fire people. They call it deactivation. I'm not buying that. It's called firing. They fire people most of the time with no reason whatsoever, and you'll never know. But you tell us a little bit about your past experience with these gig apps.
Okay. The reason I drive is to publish my book, American Railroad, where I was actually accused of insurance fraud and acquitted. So it's dear to my heart when people are falsely accused, and especially when the burden is on them to disprove it. So I think they're borrowing the big election lie to try to get rid of drivers. And it's a little different with each company. With Uber, the app began to fail at times when I couldn't get delivery or pickup addresses, and I had to complete jobs without them. I had to call customers, and they tipped me, and I kept complaining. At some point in time, at the end of 2022, they deactivated me, and they claimed that I was canceling orders to keep the food, which was, of course, a lie. And one instance, we had a customer where I got on the line with support, which is what I do regularly, and he followed the whole delivery. And sure enough, the delivery address and pickup address both disappeared. So the customer reordered, and the same thing happened again.
Hmm.
But days later, they deactivated me, and they tried to take $100 back from me out of my bank account, and the bank charged the money back. They said that's a fraudulent transaction. So Uber, I thought, was the best company, but that's what the problem I had with them. DoorDash deactivated me after 4,000 deliveries last June without a single word as to what I'd done wrong. Initially, they said it was the background check, but that simply couldn't be. Okay. They still, as of a week ago, they gave me back my access to support, premium support. I'm a top dasher, but still they say they're checking on my account. Well, it's been 2 weeks. So they're playing these types of games. And I can't go to arbitration, for example, unless I know exactly what they're charging me with. They have never said one single word. Now, Grubhub used the fraud thing, padding the hours thing, but they never did that with me until 1 year, last September. So what I did is what lawyers do. I documented everything. I copied all the screenshots, the calls to customers, and I sent them a lengthy letter telling them exactly that I was not late. There was one incident where I had to wait 24 minutes to find a customer because the address, the suite number was wrong, and I had an agent on the line with me, which is what you do. You get these agents to follow along with you, and they reinstated me. I was shocked. I turned on the app, and there was no violations. All three had been erased. And after I talked to Nancy Luna at Business Insider, they did it again to me. And I knew they were going to, I knew they were going to do it again. So what I have here, I'm not going to get up, but I do have here, I'll explain to you what I have.
Sure.
I keep a note, a sheet note every day of every delivery I get. And what I did is I kept time when they weren't giving me enough time. So I wrote not NET, not enough time. And what this company does is it will send you on deliveries after you pass the restaurant. So it takes longer, and you have to reverse course in traffic. It takes longer to get to these spots. So I have not enough time. And interestingly enough, the day before, which was November 4th, my last day was the 5th, I was given well enough time on every single delivery. And as I may have mentioned in one of my episodes earlier, my on-time delivery went from 91% down to 75 in one day. So they can control these algorithms. They can most certainly control them because we do something called canes, which we have to place the order. They never bother us with that. So they have the ability to control it. So I have all sorts of circles and arrows, and I sent it to them with more documentation than in the previous instance. And not only that, I sent them my personal diary. I keep a personal diary. You know, lawyers do. They write everything down. Even Pence did that. And so I sent them copies of my diary, but now they won't budge. What they did is they told me that I'm not deactivated, that my account is still active. This means all three violations that were set apart by 10 days must expire. They must sunset, right? Well, one happens to have sunsetted yesterday. And I'm probably going to wait till all three are gone. But Sergio, they're all lies because I wasn't late on any one of those deliveries. I know when I'm late, and I know when customers are tipping me and I'm texting them that they're not claiming I'm late.
Yeah, I mean, Robert, I know this for a fact that actually we're working on a story with a major newspaper. Grubhub has this reputation of purging drivers, and so does DoorDash, so does Uber Eats, specifically in California because we have Proposition 22. And a lot of drivers are unjustly accused of milking the Prop 22 clock, okay?
Yes.
And that's their excuse of firing drivers right and left, couriers right and left. And you know, in a business that we are, you know, deliveries are a three-sided marketplace, right? So you have three sides of it. You have the restaurant, you have the consumer, and you have the driver. Well, guess who doesn't have any control of what they're doing? Because if you go to a restaurant and the food is not ready or their back office is messed up, that they're not even fit to do deliveries, right? Because during the pandemic, everybody was doing, as a restaurant owner, you know, they were all applying to these third-party apps, but we have no control. If the food is not ready, food is not ready. But as you correctly stated, they have that clock on us saying that, well, you have to pick up now. Well, if the food is not ready, what am I supposed to pick up? I'm not cooking the
Right.
food, right?
Right.
So, they
I've
fire
left
people because of
restaurants.
that.
Sorry to interrupt you. I've left restaurants where the Grubhub app is telling me that I should have delivered this double order 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Now, how does that figure? And I also mentioned that I ran into one driver. His dad almost committed suicide after he was given three violations. He's 74 years old, and they had to call the ambulance to take him to the hospital. The poor guy, he was so distraught over this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, this
So
happens a lot. You know, look, the firing or deactivations, I believe happen with AI bots. I mean, there is no human resources at these companies because at their scale, there is not enough people to look into each problem individually, as we should, because we are human, right? We need a human review of all these instances, but there are so many and their algorithms are so messed up that, you know, we're in a business that we have absolutely no control. We're not cooking the food. All we're doing is picking up point A, dropping off point B, right?
yeah,
And they put the clock on you, and then if you break their terms, so-called terms, which is meaningless, they'll deactivate you. So yeah, I do
Well,
hear you. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk to you. And you're an ex-lawyer, and well, not
yeah.
ex-lawyer, you're still a lawyer. You're just not practicing, but you took on a job that you kind of enjoy doing because you've been doing it for 8 years. I'm assuming you're enjoying doing what you're doing.
I love doing it because you see, it's a challenge. I don't mind the challenge of a tough delivery, having to hike up hills, park my car in strange places. I've had some, I don't have time for all the stories, but I think I get mad when I can't get work, you see.
Yep.
Uh,
So how many
GoPuff,
apps are you on now? I mean, it seems like Uber deactivated you in 2022, DoorDash deactivated you, Grubhub deactivated you. Do you believe they're all for the same reason?
well, I'm on GoPuff right now, and I was very concerned, but right now my on time percentage is still 100%. The
Okay.
reason is that we have to deliver heavy bottles and boxes, and we have
Yes.
to take time to scan them and take them upstairs and check IDs, you see.
Yeah.
So for the third straight week, I have top ratings just like everything else. The only problem is at certain stations, there's too many drivers and you have to wait, you see. That's the
Yeah.
only problem.
Well,
That
but we always say you have to be multi-apping. You have to have a lot of tools in your toolbox. And so the top two for me, as far as deliveries are concerned, is DoorDash, obviously, and the giant gorilla in the room, and Uber Eats, right? Without those two, you're not going to make too much money. So
yeah,
so give me the latest that you have with your correspondence with these two companies. Uber Eats, when did Uber Eats deactivate you?
it deactivated me in August of 2022.
Okay.
My
And what was the
brother,
reason? What was the reason exactly?
they claimed that I was canceling orders to take food, that I was canceling
Okay.
orders early, which is
That's total
completely
bullshit.
ludicrous.
That's total
My
bullshit.
brother
Yeah.
is a good attorney, Sergio, and he's written them letters and even demanded hundreds of thousands of dollars. But they have never responded, even to demands for arbitration and arbitrators. So my argument is this takes them out of any arguments they have. And we've written to them, they've never responded.
Yeah.
And under California law, that can be an adoptive admission.
Okay. Well, what
Uh,
we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this video out, obviously. That's why we're talking here.
oh, sure.
And I personally will send this to Uber. I have contacts at Uber, and let's see if it wakes them up. Because look, you're a lawyer, and you're in touch with lawyers. Your brother is a lawyer. They don't like messing with lawyers too much, but what happens is that at their scale, people like you fall through the cracks, and they just ignore things, right? Until they get a push. And
Right. Here's
I'm willing to be your voice. I'm gonna push this as hard as I can because I think this needs to stop. And the major thing that they're not stopping, Robert, that I see lately, and I'm going to push for that as well, there's a lot of fake accounts, illegal accounts. People are just having two, three accounts under their name, and a lot of illegal immigrants doing this work, and none of them are background checked. It's super unsafe, but that's not the topic of conversation. So
yeah,
Uber deactivated you. Now, what is DoorDash's claim to fame? Why did they deactivate you for?
they never told me. I filed 8 appeals. My brother has written them letters. First, they said it was the background check. At one point, I was still a top dasher. They told me I didn't have enough deliveries to keep that thing, when in fact I was 100 more. So they've messed with me, but they won't tell me
Okay.
at all, or my brother, why they deactivated me. Now, at first the app said suspicious activity, but they changed that. Now they've given me access to the app, including all my ratings and everything. But it says they have to wait. I have to wait 24 hours for them to check my account, and that's been 2 weeks.
That's been 2 weeks. Of course, that's what they do. They just give you a little bone to chew on, and then they just kind of forget about you again. And
Yeah,
Grubhub is about milking the clock, right? Milking the Prop 22
that's what
clock.
they say. And as I said, my all three violations or alleged violations sunset at the beginning of February.
Okay.
So they told me that I'm not deactivated, that my account is. And remember, I've applied for unemployment.
Yeah.
And I warned the EDD by a letter here in California, in Torrance, that they're going to be doing this to other drivers and possibly denying them benefits under Section 130, which is working against the interest of the employer. I haven't heard anything yet for my application, but
Yeah.
now that I'm working, I'll be able to report some
Well, they'll
income.
get away with it because, they call us so-called independent contractors, right? We have nothing to do with it, they'll say. But so, all these three cases, it seems like you have legitimate reason. Have you tried to take these companies individually to small claims court?
No, I haven't done that. What I've done is I've made demands for arbitration, but in the meantime, they haven't responded. And I've asked Grubhub to give me the parameters of arbitration. I want to know, they're not telling me whether I can get pain and suffering or whether I can be, for example, the Whistleblower Protection Act, I'm just giving you this,
Yeah.
tells you that it doesn't matter about Prop 22. If you report any dangerous condition, and I always make these into safety issues because that's what they are. And I went to the district attorney, Gascon, and I filed a claim under 17200 of the Business and Professions Code, which is unlawful or fraudulent activities. And they said they're going to investigate. So if you report any violation, I may have mentioned that I reported Uber to the Attorney General for false routes, that I have them here.
Yeah.
So that's the point, is I'm a whistleblower. And here's the real problem, Sergio. Until unions get involved,
Yeah.
I can't get lawyers to help me.
Yeah.
They don't want to touch these cases with a 10-foot pole. And I have one law firm that has called me 12 times, and they don't want to handle these cases. So
Yeah, because they know, they know
lawyers
they're
on these
fighting.
cases.
I mean, look, they know they're fighting with Goliath, right? And then they know in most cases, they're doing it obviously on a contingency basis, and they don't want to touch these cases. And even the best labor law attorneys, they don't want to mess with these.
Right.
And
The whistleblower protection only gives you $10,000 as the most that you can possibly claim in the way of damages. So who wants to take a case for that amount? And
exactly.
I've asked
Exactly.
the
But
Department of
what's going
Labor.
to happen though? But what's going to happen though?
Yeah,
People like you, Robert, and many others are being deactivated for no reason whatsoever. Basically, they have written an algorithm for HR, and if you fall in those parameters, they're deactivating it because look, they're looking at it as you as a number, not as a human being.
correct.
And there's tend to replace you. I mean, they're not worried about shortage of drivers, right? They're breaking every single goddamn law, state and federal law, and then they just keep doing what they're doing. But
Yeah,
look, as a driver's advocate, I mean, I'm going to try to put an end to this, at least to this unjust deactivation part of it. Um,
yeah. That would
Now,
be nice.
so you tell me a little bit about what you've been doing as far as legally, what you can do, what you think you can do, what you think you deserve getting from these companies.
Well, I've written to all regulatory agencies, including the Department of Labor. I pointed out that algorithms, when they're misused, they can be subject of a lawsuit. Like Meta Platforms was sued by the Department of Justice for misusing those platforms. I've also made it clear to these companies that when there's a pending appeal and they delay, there are equitable principles. One of them is called lashes, undue delay. And my argument is that they don't have a contract with me anymore, and that would allow me to go to superior court. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I've used that thing. I've also, as I explained, that when you write to these companies and they don't respond, it can be an admission of liability. And when I was first deactivated, I told them, I'm not going to use this as an admission of liability. The reason why these companies won't budge is they're afraid they're going to be sued. But that's the conundrum they place themselves in. They put themselves in that rabbit hole from the very beginning, you see. And if drivers are treated more like employees, they would have to hire the better ones and interview and have people like me driving rather than people that come in. I'm not against migrants. I support them in many instances, but when they take a job of a guy like me, and they're the ones that are committing a lot of the fraud. I don't want to point fingers at any particular denomination, in any particular group of people. That's not fair for me to say that. But
Yeah.
as you pointed out, it's really horrendous that a person like me, now eventually I'm going to end up in a teaching position and a podcast, and eventually when my book sells, hopefully, and I'll get you a copy. I won't talk about that anymore. You want to
No,
get a
no,
copy?
I get it, but what my concern is that, millions of hundreds of thousands of people are being fired without knowing why they are getting fired. Your story is not the first time I'm hearing you. Let me tell you, I've interviewed a driver from Pittsburgh, a rideshare driver. He was deactivated 8 times by Lyft, 8. And on the ninth one, they fired him for good. But for those 8 times, he had dash cam footage that they couldn't fight, right? And
Yeah.
and then he took him to small claims. He got the maximum of 15,000 in Pittsburgh, and now he's going to try to collect. Look, these people need to get hit in the head with all this. And my concern is that though, as educated as you are, as knowledgeable as you are, as all the letters you've written, you still haven't gotten anywhere. If you can't get anywhere, how's a small guy in a small town getting fired by these apps for no reason. How are they supposed to fight? Give us some advice about that. What do you think we should do?
You have to keep pushing. You have to keep exposing the lies in many different ways. That's all we can do at this stage. I've been talked to by and called by Altshuler Burzon. They're opposing Prop 22, and they're using me as an expert. You have to keep pushing in different ways. I've contacted the Service Employees International Union, and I was told that a coordinator would call me back. So this has to be attacked at many different angles. There's no one specific way, but I wouldn't have been reactivated had I not fought
Yeah,
and documented things as I'm doing now. And it's possible that they may be able to reinstate me. Meanwhile, I'm forming my own courier service
great.
where I will be able to do deliveries and then until Sergio, I'm 75.
Yeah,
I'm in great shape for 75. I may not look it, but I can't do this forever. I would rather do what you do
yeah.
and fight for drivers and unions and things of that nature.
Well,
So,
we're gonna fight together on this one. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a popular video, and I don't mind being the voice of all the deactivated people. And I think this needs to end, right? This meat grinder attitude these companies have needs to end. And if there's nothing else I can do about this I'm going to push for until I stop doing what
well,
I'm doing.
thank you very much.
So
I would not have done this had I not found out that there were other drivers involved.
oh, there
I
are.
found out from Nancy Luna that in other articles that you see, if I thought it was just me, that would have been a conundrum for me.
Yeah.
But when I found out other drivers were involved, this is time for me to get involved.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And so I always ask this to all the interviewers, give me two things you like about the gig economy and give me two things you hate about the gig economy.
Well, the thing that I like about it is the people. My father was a waiter and he worked in Jack Kent Cook's Forum as the
Yeah,
maitre d'. So he was a people person and a person that served people. And it's nothing greater than getting a nice tip. In West Hollywood, a lady left me a wonderful note that I still have. I cried when I got it. It was one of the greatest things. So that's one thing about it.
yeah,
The other thing is there's unlimited amounts of money you can't make on certain days. So I
yeah,
had a $52 tip for delivering pizzas one block
yeah,
about a year ago. The things that I don't like is the inability to get work when they flood the market with too many drivers who are not as qualified as I am, not able to get work.
yeah,
I suppose that's one problem. The other thing is that they've adopted this form of dishonesty because during the pandemic, they got a glut of drivers that they didn't really need at the time. I was making tons of money because no other drivers were working, and then they all jumped on the bandwagon.
yeah,
And another thing, they have to improve their technology, but a lot of times they really won't do it. So
yeah.
I
No,
got positives and negatives, but I still do it, Sergio.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to keep in touch with you, obviously. We're going to fight on this together. And then, anytime you need my help, you ring me up, you know where I'm at. And I think you're doing the right thing. I think quitting is not an option in my book, right? Because all these injustices have to be brought out. I mean, I look at this in a bigger picture, Robert. The way I look at it is I have two kids, right? And I see this Uberization and DoorDashization of this HR systems that they have written that I don't want my kids to get fired by a computer one day. You know what I'm saying? And
No,
and I think it's proliferating and I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
it's horrible. But you see, you gotta be a little crazy to do this job to do 19,000 deliveries, almost 20.
Yeah.
You gotta be a little crazy to do this, and you have to love the challenge. That's why I'm out there. And my car. I'll say one more thing. My car is named Cruiser because
Okay.
he's a Chevy Cruze. What this car has been through, it's been through accidents. I've broken bones twice on this job.
Wow.
And one case settled last week. I broke my foot doing a delivery, and it's settled yesterday. My attorney, I have a good attorney that settled the case.
Okay.
This car has been through murder. This car is a champion. And so this car has a little smile on the dashboard that keeps me going when I get angry. And believe me, I yell and scream, and I've cried when I couldn't get work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
But it's
mean,
a people
this is so good and so timely for me to do. And look, I'm gonna keep in touch with you. I mean, I'll give you all the support I can. And
very
and
well.
and lastly, I always give the person I'm interviewing like 1 minute of advice. Give us some advice. Look, you're 74, you said you've lived through many experiences. It doesn't have to be gig work advice, because we give a lot of that anyway. But give us
Right.
some advice, what to our audience.
My girlfriend got me a little charm for my keychain for Christmas. And it fits me to a T, but it would fit other people. And it listed these items. One is okay to have a bad day. Number two is you're enough. Number three, don't believe everything you think. And number four is you're loved. Look around and you'll find that people do love you and all that.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't have said those any better myself. So I thank you. I appreciate your time, and we will be in touch. Let me know about what's happening with these three companies, and we are going to try to get you back on. I mean, you haven't done anything wrong, and I'm not going to lay down on these deactivations. But again, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome, Sergio. Keep in touch. Thank you for helping me with the technology. I know a lot
Anytime.
about law, but I don't know much about this system. So I thank you for assisting me.
Thank you. And if people want to get in touch with you, I will put them in touch with you because there are hundreds of thousands like you out there who've been unjustly deactivated. So again, thanks a lot. Here's Robert from LA, California, and his story is not over. We're going to keep updating you, our audience, and thanks again.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the RideShare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel as well as amazing content on our channel.